Hey everyone, welcome to That Little Podcast episode 126. Tonight, we are going to be we'll be going to play the Sega Genesis. Now, we're going to be talking about our memories, Sega Genesis, the games we played, what we enjoyed, the peripherals, and everything in between. But tonight, this is a live episode, of course. So, with me, I have Owazrim. Do you want to introduce yourself, my friend?
I'm Owazrim. I play retro video games. I love Sega stuff. The Genesis was my first console that I ever got. And I stream and make videos on YouTube, and I'm on Discord and Twitter or X and all over the place. And yeah, glad to be discussing the
Gilius.
Genesis. And sometimes I cosplay as Dr. Robotnik when I don't have a huge beard. I have a huge mustache.
Gilius Sega Head.
Yes. Yes.
Or with when it gets cool enough, it's the Sega Viking.
It's the Viking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All right, so Zombie?
Hey everybody, Zombie JLT1 here, your supernatural gamer. Or at least for tonight, I am known as Altered Zom.
All right.
Oh, do I got memories.
Oh, yeah. And Retro Ryan.
What's up, guys? Retro Ryan here. You can catch me live every Tuesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, taking your 80s, 90s game requests and playing you 80s, 90s game and toy footage. Yeah, we're talking about the Genesis, man. I think it's probably the sexiest looking console. Those those angles, that headphone out, the experience, the 6-button controller. Just something sleek, sophisticated about it. You know, I mean, we were coming from
the Master System. Yeah, he's my precious.
We were coming from the beige NES.
Let me grab mine.
When we were coming from the beige NES, look, I'm nostalgic as anybody else for that console, but it ain't got nothing on the Genesis. The Genesis is looks like a sports car compared to the fucking beige NES. As much as I love the NES, it looks like shit.
Whoa. Them's fighting words, Ryan.
Yeah, you're gonna start some fights.
Them's fighting words.
Oh,
Hence why we had console wars back in those days.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
That is a topic
And
for tonight.
the Genesis was made to compete with the NES.
Yes, it
It's
was.
more the beige.
The NES, not the Super
You know what
Nintendo.
my main issue is? It's just that it yellows so easy. And I hate seeing so many yellowed in the wild, but that's more of a chemical reaction. I mean, so getting one minty out of the box, I don't really have a problem with that, but it's just so annoying to see them yellowed when you come across them usually. It's just something that bothers me. And anytime you come across a Genesis, it just looks perfect in black.
So, that was the thing. What was your first impression of seeing the Sega Genesis? I mean, it was pretty sleek compared to like what we had. Like, I mean, you had the Atari, you had the
high definition graphics over the top.
the Turbo Graphics, right? I think we were about that time. We had the Turbo Graphics. We had the NES, of course, because the Genesis.
Atari.
Yeah, because the Genesis came out before the Super Nintendo. Let's get that. Let's get that
Yes.
out there.
89. They come out 89.
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't have the specs here.
High definition graphics before we even knew what that was, right? Remember it said it above the circle on top.
16-bit processing.
Yeah.
Remember that. It was
big
16-bit.
16-bit. Yeah, it's like this is the new cutting edge. I mean, you think about like they just threw the system out there, and then it wasn't until we got the 2D era with Sonic, because he wasn't the original main character mascot for the system. Yeah, 16-bit.
Yeah.
High definition graphics.
But
before anybody even knew what the hell a bit was,
the slider,
they
the
had
sound.
They had to market that to us.
It was. Yep. I mean, you think about, because like I didn't get mine, I think, until like 90, so just before the Super Nintendo came out, and we got it secondhand. Actually, it was a guy at my dad's work that was looking to get rid of his, and my dad just brought this box home. I was like, sweet, we got a Sega Genesis. This is awesome. And I think we had like Kid Chameleon, Sonic 1, Madden Sports Talk, the John Elway Sports Talk Football, and like 2 other games. And I remember us having that all the way up until, I think, man, whenever Jurassic Park Rampage, the second Jurassic Park game, came out, and I got Shining Force 2 on it, and then we had the Sega CD for it. We rented the 32X, but I ended up taking it, and for some reason, it got put in a box, and we took it over to my grandmother's, and we had something happened, and like all of her stuff got destroyed through a flood, and I lost my console that way. But it was such a great console. To me, it didn't compare to the Super Nintendo when the Super Nintendo came out later on, but it was still great. You had some really good games, the music, the just feel, the ambiance that you were getting with the system. But
I feel like I got the peak bundle, the Sonic 2 bundle with the console.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because that game is so perfect. It's a perfect game. You know, and it's like, I think that is a great competitor to Super Mario World Bundle with the SNES. I mean, you can sit with that one game that comes with your console, and if that's all you have for a while, you can survive on that because it's that good.
Mm-hmm.
For pack-in titles, you know, given what my icon is, my glory days of collecting for that would have been the original launch Genesis with the Altered Beast pack-in. Like that would have been my grail of Genesis collecting up until that point. Now, am I the odd man here who was the Nintendo fanboy?
Oh, I was
purely 100%.
I was a Nintendo fanboy. I was.
All right, because I wanna bring that up really, really quick here. And right on time, my best buddy Leroy just jumped into the chat. Welcome, brother. Glad you can make it.
Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so let me do a little shout out here. So I've been saying hi in the chat, but of course we got Leroy here, we got Dark Link, we have P Merc, we have Ruby, and that's about it that I can see. So I'm sure there's people lurking, but thank you all for being here for this episode.
Let me give Leroy something special. I've never met you, but to me, he's bad. Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. That just made me think of that song.
Not the Leroy
Chickens. Yeah,
right.
Let's do it.
At least I got chicken.
Now, Leroy is my childhood best friend, my partner in crime when it came to game collecting. And like I've told Billy and Jay before, part of the reason what drew me to their channel is because we were like that growing up. We went to every place we could that sold retro games, from the dumpiest looking pawn shops to like stores miles away because our local bus didn't take us there. We had to walk in the heat. Like that's who we are. That's who we were back then. That's how we are now. But another significance to this is because of the fact that while I tell people we are like the OG game chasers from Arizona, we are also the OG console war guys, because we were there dead center when it was happening, and Leroy was the Sega guy. I was the Nintendo kid. And back and forth, we would always debate what console was superior. And he would try to bring me over to the Sega side. I would try to convert him to the Nintendo side. I mean, we were console warring in our homes. But what I never took away from that is the exposure to the games that we had, because it's one thing when you're growing up during the console wars and you've got the ports that are on multi-platforms, you got the Mortal Kombats, you got the Street Fighters, you got all those games that are going back and forth. What about the console exclusives? I wasn't too big on those back then.
No.
despite having the luxury of growing up with the NES and the Master System at the same time, I wasn't really into that whole scene. And the funny thing was is that had the exposure to the Master System been more prevalent in my neighborhood, I probably would have been more of a dedicated Sega fan at that time because there were just some things that Master System did that NES wouldn't even touch. So, I was a little biased in that way, but if someone was to say, Zom, do you want to play Double Dragon on NES or Master System? Oh, I'm choosing the Master System version, hands down. I don't care how glitchy it is. I don't care about the hit detection.
Because you
That
could
is the
both
superior.
play at the same time.
Yeah, you could
Yes.
both play this. Yeah, exactly. You could both play at
That
the
is
same
the
time.
superior port. And not to mention, even for being an 8-bit console, the Master System did a hell of a job when it came to arcade ports. Now, why I shifted focus when the 16-bit war started, I have no idea. Because Sega was the name when it came to the arcade scene. Nintendo may have dominated with the home consoles for a while, but Sega was king of the arcades. You had Golden Axe, Altered Beast, Moonwalker, all those classic Sega titles that were exclusives. And you would have thought, for how much I loved playing those, like my beloved Afterburner as well, I would have jumped ship immediately to the Genesis, and I didn't. I don't know why.
It
Dude, you know what's a maybe potentially a missed opportunity looking back? Remember, was it a 5-in-1 cart with the Golden Axe and all those
Oh,
games
the
on it?
6-pack, yeah. And that was a point
Yeah.
I was going to say earlier.
Did they
That's the
ever-
best pack-in title.
So they did. Did they ever pack in that with the console? It came with the console.
Yeah, it
yeah, I
did.
think so. Yeah, I think it did.
Okay, so
It was later on though.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
that's
was
really hard to
late.
beat. Then, if you get that, that's amazing.
Also, the Streets of Rage pack-in as well. That's another one with the Genesis one that was also tough to choose between.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was because of the fact that like just area location, what stores carried at the time. Because like Super Nintendo was just dominating the market. So, and they would strong arm retailers to try to make sure that they got the footprint versus like Sega.
The premium locations and whatnot.
And I mean, I love both consoles, right? But when I got heavily into RPGs, it was Super Nintendo over Genesis. I mean, yeah, Phantasy Star was fun, but that was on the Master System. I didn't really play 2, 3, and 4 on the Sega Genesis. But Shining Force, hands down, the best tactical RPG outside of Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre, which are technically spiritual successors if you know the lore of things behind those two games. And it kind of sucks that like that's another thing is I love the Shining Force games and they should have gotten more love. I mean,
yes, they should have.
We did get 2 on the Game Gear. We got 2 on the Genesis. We got 1 on the Saturn. Even though there was 3 versions to that 3. My cat's knocking over something. They're fighting.
Wait.
And
well, Fantasy Star 4, Vince, is like what Chrono Trigger is to you.
For some
That's
people,
like Fantasy Star 4 is my RPG that it still resonates with me when I played and just connected with me like other RPGs didn't. So like, that one just always, I just love the art style, the cut scenes in it. It's just, you can pick it up and play. It's not confusing. That one for me is special.
But see, here's the shitty thing. Here's the shitty thing. Unless you had the Master System, you weren't going to discover that series until probably either Genesis or where it really, really was big, Dreamcast with Phantasy Star Online.
Which totally took it in a different direction. But like the multiplayer aspect of that on a console was groundbreaking. I mean, we didn't get that level of kind of like multiplayer experience until Final Fantasy 11, and that was one of those things that you had to be a Final Fantasy fan to want to even do that. I mean, that was on PS2, you got it on 360, it did get on the PS4, but it was mainly on PC, and like that exploded, even though it was a really more difficult game. But Phantasy Star had a kind of weak single player story, but it was all about that multiplayer. You know, being able to play with your friends and, you know, explore this world. And I feel like it was one of those things that did hype the series and get people to go back, but I feel like it damaged the franchise because we haven't gotten a traditional Fantasy Star game since. And I'm hoping we may get that with this new thing that they're doing with like re-releasing titles with you know, Shinobi, we got some kind of new Sonic coming, Golden Axe. You know, we did get well, we're getting a new Streets of Rage something, but so what is y'all's takes on that?
Well, here's what I'm going to build upon with what you just said. I think Phantasy Star Online did for RPG Sega fans what Final Fantasy VII did to get people to either go back and revisit the franchise or introduce them to it. So, in many ways, I think that the series pretty much did what it was supposed to do up until that point. But again, it comes down to that exposure issue. Now, what you had mentioned earlier, and if correct me if I'm wrong here, but
Welcome, Josh.
Owaz and I being like the Master System guys here. Shout outs to our spiritual brother, Big Family Gaming, by the way.
BFG.
When it came to hunting down 8-bit titles, I don't know if this is the same for all you guys, but for me specifically, Nintendo was everywhere. My mom worked at a Dillard's, Nintendo everything. KB toy stores, Nintendo everything. I only ever saw Sega products at Toys R Us, which, I mean, cool. I know where to go if I want a new Master System title, but that was just, you know, that was just the scene for anything Sega, really. That's where we got most of our Sega products, our light phasers, our games, everything. Genesis then comes out of nowhere, starts bombarding the shelves. Now, when I go to KB, I can see those games, but I'm still not picking them up.
Yeah.
And it can't be price point because we all know Super Nintendo games were more expensive. Hell, the bundles were more expensive than Genesis. And again, other than the commercials that I love, the Genesis does what Nintendo don't, I just don't know why I didn't gravitate towards it like I thought I would have, because I was
Dude,
still
you know what?
diehard Super Nintendo.
You know what first world problems are? Getting the NES growing up and then getting the Genesis and then just feeling like I still was robbed because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. Dude, that's first world problems right there. That's Americana of just, you know what I mean? Because either way you miss out. If you go Super Nintendo, you're gonna be jealous when you see kids playing Sonic. If you go, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like if you go Genesis, you're gonna feel left out when, you know, there's like when they're playing Castlevania, you're gonna feel left out when they're playing Super Metroid. You're gonna feel left out, you know. So either way, you're gonna feel, unless you were that rich kid who had both, and then you get the best of both worlds. But that was
hey.
Well, hey,
I wasn't rich.
I got it secondhand. I mean, even the Super Nintendo, we traded in our NES to get the Super Nintendo. So it's like I didn't buy it outright. So, but yeah, no. But even this was the thing that created the console wars between the fans. I mean, Owaz brought it up earlier, but like you think about this, right? We're talking about two of the giants, right? Nintendo and Sega. But then you had TurboGrafx. That system was technically designed to compete with the NES, and it didn't have any shelf life. I never found it anywhere. I remember seeing it in like Babbage's, Electronics Boutique maybe, but never in Toys R Us.
That's where you're getting to the expensive stuff.
And they had the kiosk with Bonk, and that was my only
it.
exposure with the TurboGrafx as a kid. Was Bonks. I was like, oh, that looks cool, you know, bright colors, and you know, it looked cool and all that. And I don't remember how long it was there.
That's a
but
rarity.
Probably not that long.
Yeah, I never saw a kiosk for TG16 anywhere. The only reason I ever knew about TG16, one of my uncle's rich friends had it, who also had the only Neo Geo in my neighborhood. And of course, you know, our go-to source for everything, gaming magazines. Hell, even the Game Pro TV show when that ran used to talk about TG16. So, you know, that's That's how I knew about it. Oh, don't even get me started on that. I'm gonna rage quit if I think about those kids who can't find the damn game in the mall.
Oh gosh, I would have had everything on me. It would have been like an armor.
Right?
I would have looked like a freaking a power suit from Fallout.
How many copies of Racket Attack do you really need? Come
None.
on, kids.
Batman?
Seriously.
Batman, maybe. I need
Yes.
a couple Batman copies, but
Batman, Battletoads, Double Dragon. Let's go. Get those good ones, not fucking Racket Attack. All right, I'm gonna end up having some PTSD here, but I never saw a TGC or TG16 kiosk. It was always Super Nintendo, Game Boy, especially at like Target. They always had the countertop Game Boy kiosk that was always hard to grip because you can't. It's locked up tight. And then I would
Had
see
the bar going over it.
Yes, that annoying ass damn thing, and a Sega kiosk. And those were the ones that usually had those accordion plastic controller attachment. Yes, you can't
Couldn't hardly
them.
move it and
Yeah.
get it comfortable, and half the time you're like you have to scrunch down. And you're like,
Yeah,
Or-
exactly.
Or you would get there and you'd see that some kid had ripped the controller out of the thing.
yes.
It's just the little cables that are dangling from the
The
controller
dangling-
doesn't
Uh-huh.
work. I was like, come on.
You're like,
Yup.
oh, oh,
Oh man, like,
you
but
broke the thing. But I think the thing is, Nintendo had to compete with the 2-year-old system when the Super Nintendo came out.
correct.
The Genesis was, as I should say, Sega did a wonderful job promoting and making the Genesis / Mega Drive a actual competitor to a superior system that came out
Yes.
2 years later
Yes.
here in the States. And so it was underpowered, and it was missing 3 buttons, actually 4 buttons if you include the select button. But they did a great job of pushing it out, and developers did a good job of showing what the Genesis could do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they made some good deals with EA, because for a long time the Genesis was known as like, hey, if you want to play sports games, that's where you're going. You're going to go to the Genesis
Mhm.
because it had Madden and I don't remember all the other ones, but
And guess what?
Tony
You
La
want to
Russa
talk
and
about
Lasorda
sports?
baseball.
You want to talk about sports, Oaz? Genesis NBA Jam had music. Super
Yeah.
Nintendo didn't. Remember that?
Well,
You would just
Oh.
dribble your ball. There wasn't the music in the NBA Jam on Super Nintendo.
well, I
That
mean,
was an epic tale.
and that
Ryan's
could,
starting the fire early,
that could
man.
be that could be a fire. I mean, but that could be a problem with the fact that the developer itself, not necessarily Nintendo. Because I'm sorry,
the Super
I remember-
Nintendo could have done it.
yes, it could have the Sony sound chip in that system is superior to the Sega Genesis, but still, it was a different style of sound quality.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get into that whole argument, you got to go into the whole thing of like, oh, which
No, I'm just
version of
talking
Mortal
about
Kombat's
one
better?
game.
No, I
I'm
know,
just
I know,
using
I
one
know.
game as
Yeah, you're right. It is. I mean, man, I think there was another game that had a sound issue on the Super Nintendo, depending on like what you were playing. that-
Most ports did.
yeah,
Most ports did. I harken back to our retroactive trio episode where we discussed that the sound quality of certain ports on the Sega Genesis versus the SNES, and there are some key differences, but I mean, I attribute that to honestly just what you grew up with.
correct.
Because me, I will choose a majority of the time SNES's soundtracks, but I don't deny there are some great sounding Genesis ones too. Lightning Force, Thunder Force 4, all the fucking way. That is one of the best soundtracks on the Genesis
Shinobi 3.
ever.
Shinobi 3
3.
is fantastic.
Well, even
Super
Shining
Nintendo.
Force, I think, had a great
Oh,
soundtrack.
it did, and it didn't
Mhm.
It
have
had
that.
really good, like, just
That
good,
circus theme.
thematic.
Yeah, that just the town music alone. Besides when you get into battle, but
Plus, Shining Force gave us a fucking werewolf. That wins hands down.
it
I don't.
did.
You can play any RPG you want. It gave us Xylo.
and two
Goat.
and two gave us the flying Gamera turtle.
Yep.
I always do it. They always name Gamera. What's up, Ty Lord? What's up, Brian Fan? Welcome, guys.
Yes, Sparkster, Castlevania Bloodlines. Yep.
Yeah.
Contra Hardcore. I still think Contra Hardcore is better than Contra 3.
Well,
I haven't played either enough to make a judgment call there.
I can't
but
make a judgment call there, but like I'm sorry, but Turtles in Times is so much better than Hyperstone Heist. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That one is
to me, because like I
not,
love.
not to me. I love Hyperstone Heist. Turtles
Chat,
in,
let's
in
hear
Time
it.
is
Let's
like
hear it.
feels so slow, and there's something particularly talking about an accessory using this arcade
Oh yeah,
stick
yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
for Hyperstone Heist and doing the slide attack, and you get into a rhythm of you're sitting there going back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
just
That was
so,
that was a
so nice.
legendary Konami triple release there with
It
Rocket
was.
Knight,
Mhm.
Hardcore, and Hyperstone. That was an amazing three combo.
Well, Bloodlines. You gotta include
Yeah.
Bloodlines, because I mean,
Yeah, Bloodline too.
even like I love. Don't get me wrong. I will always be a fan of Super Castlevania 4.
Yes.
The ambiance, the way the game plays, the Simon. It's just a retelling of the very first Castlevania game, and it just hit and just tickled my vampire love and like platformer and stuff. But I've been a fan of the Castlevania series since day one.
It's more gothic feeling.
Yes, but like there's something magical about Bloodlines that is unique to its own, and it ties more into the Bram Stoker Dracula novel than it does the Castlevania lore, which is kind of cool.
Yep. And to take it back to what we were just saying about Contra Hardcore versus Alien Wars, another reason why that game dominates, same reason that Shining Force 1 does, gave us a werewolf.
Yes.
Sega bringing 2 awesome werewolf characters into games. Suck it, Nintendo. Where were your guys?
Didn't Breath of Fire have a werewolf?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then you can look at I mean, at least Final Fantasy 3 we got Umaru, which was a giant yeti. So I mean, werewolf versus yeti.
Werewolf.
Now there is wolf. There is Wolfchild on both the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. That one I will pick the Super Nintendo one over because better soundtrack, better graphics in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, come on, Xylo, Fang, Hardcore. They were awesome characters.
I mean, if we're also going to be talking about werewolf, we're going to talk about, of course, Altered Beast, which is hands down one of my favorite games. It was just like rise from your grave.
Segway.
It is very iconic, but I don't think it's that great of a game. It is very rough.
It is. I mean, if
and
you
then
play the
you're back to
arcade
Master System version.
If you play the arcade version versus the Genesis version, I think the arcade version is far superior. A little bit more easier to play, a little bit more welcoming than say, because the Genesis version is tough, man.
What?
I mean, I could beat it, but like as a kid, it was like it could be tough. I mean, I remember getting to like the tiger stage, and it's like, oh, I died. Damn it, I gotta start over again.
Well, that whole level is cheap. I'll admit that. The hit detection on that boss is fucking cheap. And then especially when you get to that last stage and you've got the cheap shotting fucking goats and the jumping unicorns and all that crap, like come on.
Yeah.
We just went from 3 to 8 all of a sudden.
So, which is sad that we've never really gotten. I mean, we did get like a later on Altered Beast game, but it wasn't great. But we never got like a sequel on.
Never got a proper sequel
on the Genesis or of that magnitude. I mean, it's that thing.
Was Garfield caught in the act on both systems?
It was on Genesis.
I think
it was on
Genesis
and Game Gear.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I like games like that are just on Genesis, and I love like Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion. I will swear all day long that those were some of the best Disney games ever made. Period.
What was it? There was a Beauty and the Beast game that was only on the Genesis as well. That was really good. A little more.
There's
gothic.
2 of them. There's 2 of them. There's
and then
Bell's
technically,
Quest
say,
and Roar of the Beast.
Because of the power base converter, you've got
Yes.
another Castle of Illusion. You've got Lucky Dime Caper. You've got What else? I can't think of them all, but there were several other Disney games that were released and are different than the Genesis versions on
All
the
right,
Master
can we go
System.
into full? Can we go into full UFC fight now?
Yes, let's go. For it.
Aladdin Genesis with the sword is it better than fucking parkour Aladdin Super Nintendo Aladdin? I said it. Let's fight in the
Okay.
street.
Okay.
Nope, I agree.
I
I
agree.
think it's better.
I think the Genesis port is better overall as a game. However, the Super Nintendo Final Fight with Jafar, way better.
Way better. Yes, way better. Yeah, yeah.
That's the one thing they did better, in my opinion.
Lion King was Lion King regardless.
Oh, you hate it across every console.
No, I had it for Super Nintendo. I could beat it. I mean, heck, whenever Omega was doing his contest, I was going to enter that, and I had beat it in front of like him and Ryan multiple times. I was like, all right, guys, should I hit this? But I was like, no, other people are going to do it, so I did Star Wars, which is Disney property. So,
Fair enough.
did we get a Star Wars game on the Genesis? I don't think we did, right?
There was the Super Star Wars. The first one was in the works, but it got
Mhm.
dropped. And I think there's a team working on making it playable. So
We did get the Star Wars
might.
arcade for 32X, and
Yes.
Yeah.
And Rebel Assault for CD.
Yep.
There was a Star Wars game for the Master System, which would be playable through power-based controllers. So
I've got the
you
Game
could
Gear
get some
ports.
Star Wars on it, but I think the Super Star Wars games are overrated as it is. They're not that great.
No, but I love them. So
I agree. I had tons of fun playing them. I
Yeah.
don't think they're good games though. They're very crud, what's the word?
There's moments where it's cheap because of like the
There you go.
respawn ability of the enemies. Sometimes
They're
the drops
cheap.
don't work. They perfected it with Return of the Jedi, and I feel actually technically the Adventures of Indiana Jones was the superior of the JVL LucasArts games. And we got like I think what 1 or 2 Indiana Jones games on the Genesis, I believe.
Yeah.
And
Young Indy and I think Last Crusade.
yeah. So what about movie properties? Which?
Before we go away from Star Wars,
Okay.
I'm gonna say, and I hope he's still in chat. I do see him typing away here. I'm gonna take this fucking moment to gloat. Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi, all those games on Super Nintendo, are they difficult? Yes. However, they ain't got shit on Star Wars the Arcade for 32X.
No.
Leroy and I, we
No.
dedicated part of our summer to beat that game with both ships. It is possible. I don't care what anybody says.
Hey, I played the original arcade game that got ported for this remake version that we got. Hey, but it was still good. I mean, both versions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it pisses me off that 32X doesn't get as much love as it should because there's some good titles there. But before we move on from Star Wars, I just had to throw that in because I see a lot of people that complain about that game. They don't even go near it because they're like, oh, it's too hard. Bullshit, we beat it. Twice with both ships. It is possible.
Just dedicate an entire summer of your life.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did, and then it became a shelver.
1 out of the 70 to 80 years we have of summers.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We did that with Star Wars the Arcade. We did that with Hardcore. There's a lot of titles that were really good on the Genesis, but man, were they difficult.
I mean, look at Kid Chameleon. I mean, that was such a fun game, but my God, it was like some weird level designs. The game was way too long for its good, for no reason other than the fact of like this guy like it really loved this game and idea, and he just kept making levels for it or something.
But the thing is, it's not really a long game if you know where
The
to
warps.
go.
Yeah, the warps are.
There's certain areas like you go to the flag at the top of the screen instead of the bottom of the screen, or wherever, and now you just skipped 20 levels or something. The thing is, like you said, it's a really cool game.
Yeah.
Just the different helmets that you would get and the different ways that those characters, you had Jason Voorhees and the guy in the tank and the samurai and the rhino and the cyclone. Yeah,
Yes.
just so much cool stuff on it. And it's so fun to play. But yeah, if you're just trying to go start to finish and you don't not aren't paying attention, you're like, I don't remember this level. Oh, it's because you hit a different
Mhm.
flag and now it's taking you someplace else. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I could have
guess who beat Nintendo to online games? Sega Channel. I
Sega,
talk about Sega Channel.
well, Sega Channel. Well, at least, yeah. Well, when did Sega Channel start? Because remember, we can't rule out that like they had the satellite stuff for the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom in Japan. So
Yeah, the Netlink.
we may not have they may have not have beaten them to it in Japan, but they beat them to it here. But that's a good point, Ryan. I mean, like you had to have like Comcast or whatever or Time Warner to be able to have the Sega Channel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, there was specific
Cable
channels. Like
companies.
I couldn't get it. I lived out in the boonies, but it launched in December 12th of 1994.
Yeah. So when did the
I'm trying to.
Satellaview or whatever for the Super Nintendo?
It launched in Japan April
Yeah.
23rd of 1995. So Sega did do it.
Oh, they
first.
did do it. Tell you,
Mhm.
there you go, Ryan. There you go.
Yep.
By a few months.
By a few months. So,
It just has a launch date in the U.S., so I'm guessing it didn't have a launch in Japan. Wait,
no, I think it was exclusive to America.
And Sega didn't stop with the Genesis either. We got the Sega Netlink for Saturn,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got it with the Dreamcast.
Yep.
So they
first
were,
console with a modem.
Yep.
yeah, they were revolutionizing that. That's
They
what
were
killed me,
always
I
trying
think.
to push the envelope, but that was also part of their downfall, I think.
Yeah.
I also
Yes.
think that something that will probably fail to mention, so I'll mention it, is I think the clamshell is a superior case for than a cardboard box that's going to deteriorate for your game.
Oh, you're
I
not
would
wrong.
agree.
I agree with you.
I would agree.
I-
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It was so sad when Sega went the cardboard route. Screw the environment, give me my
I
plastic
know.
clamshell.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
Even with the nice box art, the red cardboard boxes, or
They
even
don't look
you,
good on a shelf, I don't
they
think.
don't.
no.
I like the clamshells. They look like novels.
They
You
don't
know?
even fit well with the even having like the
Well,
sleeves on them
I mean,
half the
you
time.
got your covers like that, and it's like then you have a wall of just red. I mean, I don't think it really
Oh,
looks good.
Nintendo Switch. Yeah, it's
The
like
Switch or anything.
Yeah.
I'm like I don't know how many times I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, what a game I'm looking for, and I have to get real
Oh,
close because it's like it's really
It's
small
nothing
print.
but red.
Yeah, it's nothing but red and
Mhm.
white, and it's like it
Red
does.
and white and small,
They don't
smallish print.
they don't translate very well.
No, and I mean,
I wish their box art for Master System
Fun.
games had been better, but they learned their lesson.
GameCube, they're different colors.
Yep.
Yep.
I the
There was
rental.
some good Master System artwork, but we're not talking about. We're talking
Yeah,
about.
we'll get into them.
They definitely learned their
Master
lesson.
System
Yes,
episode.
they did.
But
Yeah, what about the video game market? I mean, how many games? Oh, not video market, retail space. Like, well, video rental more than retail space.
Mhm.
Like when you went into Hollywood Video or Video Central, Blockbuster, or your local mom and pop video store, like how much of us like was that our discovery for finding games? Like, because there was one thing for word of mouth, and that was what was
Right.
cool, being on the schoolyard, talking to your friends or in class, and like I rented this game from this store. And you're like, this kid's telling you about it, and you're like, oh man, this is awesome, or whatever. I'm gonna go rent this too. And you go to your local mom and pop video rental store, and it wasn't there because they
Right.
had to choose between the clientele of what was available for them because they couldn't buy everything. They just didn't have the
Mhm.
space for it most of the time.
Mhm.
they had to pick what titles they thought were going to be people were going to actually want to rent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it was always hit and miss. But the thing was, like, I have like really fun memories of just looking at the cart or the cases on the shelf, and you look at the case and you turn around, look at the back, and try to figure out, okay, yeah, this one looks fun, and sometimes you pick a dud, and sometimes you pick a winner. I remember renting Shining in the Darkness,
Dude.
and
Yes.
I ended up renting it multiple times, and rented the game, and then once rented the manual, and then was going through like, oh wow, look at all this stuff, and yeah, okay, if I grind out the money, I can get this item for the main character, and it's just
Mhm.
it was it was cool way of, like you said, finding games. Like I don't think I'd seen any magazines or anything else about it. There was 2 or 3 screenshots of the back, and I was like, okay, it looks interesting. And it's probably one of my favorite Genesis games.
So that brings me to, I mean, well, Ryan, what was your stuff like for renting games and experiencing new stuff through like Blockbuster or any other
I
rental place?
remember for years and years and years going to Blockbuster, and then I was kind of late to the game discovering Hollywood Video. But then once I discovered Hollywood Video, I actually kind of preferred it, and I thought they had much better ambiance and decor in the store and just a better presentation. I felt like Blockbuster had the ambiance of a fucking orthodontist office, dude. It's like
The red,
yeah,
blue, and yeah, like the weird
not
angles.
good. It's just not good, dude. But like Hollywood Video felt very more
Natural.
inviting, you know, and just they had the cooler carpet too, and then you could see a lot more movie references too. Like I think they had like the film strip along the sides of the walls with like movie screenshots, and
Movie
you just felt like
posters. Yep.
you were more in it almost felt like kind of like the ambiance of like, remember the Disney store? You would kind of feel like you're immersed in that world. You would feel like you're more immersed in, on a lesser level obviously, but you feel like you're more immersed in the film, you know, industry just walking through there. But yeah.
So which store do you guys think had the more or the better options for rentals?
Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean,
Didn't have a Hollywood Video in town. Didn't have a Blockbuster Video in town. I don't think I had a. I didn't go into a Blockbuster Video until I was in my 20s, early
Okay.
20s.
Here's
Yeah.
why I'm gonna say
Only mom
Hollywood
and pop.
Video. Here's why I'm gonna say that because yeah, I would agree mom and pops were the best, but then sadly they started losing to Hollywood Video and Blockbuster. To kind of bounce off of what Ryan was saying, there was definitely a certain aesthetic that Blockbuster and Hollywood Video had. Hollywood Video was definitely more exciting to go into because it was exactly themed the way that it was said, Hollywood. So you went in there, you went through the turnstile, and we talked about this as well in our podcast. The overall flow of the stores. You had your movies, and then as you walked more around the store, you had your games. Hollywood Video was really good about having equal distribution for both consoles. And in some cases, they even carried more than just the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, given whatever was available at that time. They were still actually carrying NES carts. Blockbuster catered more to the exclusive. I felt like that was more of where uh the elites go, to kind of put it that way. Like that was where the hoity-toity went to get their rentals and probably had like 10 copies of Mortal Kombat. Whereas if you went to Hollywood, yeah, they might have 3 or 4 at the most, but even if they didn't have that, they still had a way better selection of games to choose from. And they were cheaper. And
yeah.
you could keep your rental longer.
You had like 5 days because originally it used to be 3, and then it went to 5 days, and then it went to like 7 days. It was like then it was like yeah, if you pay $1, you can get. Now it's closer towards the end, where you could like on the weekends you could, or during the week they wanted you because they wanted to get more foot traffic in. They would have
Right.
like you could get the game for up to this many days for $1, but then you got to make sure you turn it in before a certain time, and then you could like use that to help you get another rental or something. But I remember I think to me in my memory, like Blockbuster had the better like case design for like the when you could rent consoles and stuff. I think it was a little bit cheaper, but after a certain point, I think they stopped doing the whole. They did eventually stop doing the whole thing where you can rent a console because like when you're renting out a $300 console like the PlayStation 2 or the it was like there's no point, you know.
Right. Right. And to their credit too, it was awesome that there was again system rental to kind of mix in with the games if you had to go for the full blown experience. The mom and pop place that we used to rent NES from, they used to rent out consoles. They used to rent out zappers and joysticks. Like it was cool to kind of have that exposure without having to go drop serious dollars and then find out, oh, I'm disappointed because I just wasted all this money. So,
But
I always looked at Hollywood Video as like the place to go for the better deal, in my opinion. And like Josh had brought up in chat, that exclusive membership where they ran a credit on you,
Yeah.
like that's shitty. you know, like, oh, you finally save up to go rent a game and you can't rent it because mom's credit's bad or whatever.
Well, you gotta imagine like how many people were not like returning their copies of the games or movies and stuff.
for
Or they would
movies, yeah,
Be-
they
I
would
mean
just hold
that's
them for
expensive
months.
because at the
Be
time
kind,
I think
rewind.
the movies were like not everyone had um you couldn't afford to even buy VHS tapes because they were so expensive.
hmm
100 bucks.
So it's like, yeah, these places put out a bunch of money to get this stuff in there, including the games. Um, but with the consoles, I never rented a console. Did they put like a hold on a
What's the?
credit card when
I
you rented?
think they did. I think they did. I don't
hmm
remember, but it's
Yeah.
what's up, Great White North?
Hey,
Uh,
GWN.
yeah, I think they
Don't
Yeah.
did.
roll.
And it was just like it was one of those things. It was phenomenon, right? I know we're
hmm
talking about the Genesis tonight, but it was so cool. Like, cause like most of us couldn't get a game all the time. It was like a
No.
birthday, it was special occasion,
Holiday.
Christmas. If
You saved
you
up for a few years.
saved up, cause like gaming back then was expensive. I mean, you think about like the console itself. I think what $300 for the Genesis, and then two something or 250 for the Nintendo, and then it dropped. But
It
then
was it was like 200 for a Genesis.
it
Super
was two.
Nintendo borderline 300 because of
Yes.
the pack-in with Mario,
Hmm.
and that was also part of Sega's strategy. They kept knocking down the price of the bundle by like $50,
Yeah.
or they would get you by saying, "Hey, buy a console and get a free game on top of that. Buy this console, get these two stereo speakers," which I still want to this damn day. Um, so they were really good about, hey, don't overspend on this thing when it's crap, when you can come over here and get a much better quality console with a cheaper price tag. And I think that was a big selling point for it. A lot of people flocked to it because it was cheaper.
Yep. Mom and Dad couldn't afford the Super Nintendo, but they could probably afford a Genesis. So the NES launched at 199
Okay.
and the Genesis launched at 189.
189.
And that was in 89. So probably by 91 when the Super NES came out, it was even cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when my brother got a Super Nintendo, there was there a pack-in? I forget. I don't remember if his actually came with the pack-in, but like you weren't always guaranteed a pack-in, I don't think.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
there was the Super Mario World one, and then there was the Donkey Kong. I
Mario
think
All Stars.
Mario All Stars, but then like sometimes you got the core unit, which was just a Super Nintendo with
Yeah.
one controller.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the one my brother got, and he ended up buying Gradius 3.
Dude, I love that
Good
game.
pick.
So that he
Good
had
pick.
a
Love that
game.
game.
And that's like one of my favorite
Lightning
Super
Force is
Nintendo
better.
games. Played it so many times.
Life Force,
Just
is that what you
so
said,
much.
Zombie?
Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat,
Yeah,
but yeah, Lightning Force is better.
Oh, Lightning
doesn't
Force.
mean that Gradius 3 isn't a fun game, but Lightning Force, yeah, probably is a better game. But
But
you
you
can
think
have
about
fun
the
with both of them.
but going back to like the game prices, right? They range from 40 to $80. I think some games were 100. And
hmm
Yeah, the RPGs in particular were more expensive. Development time was longer for them. Oftentimes they came on bigger chips,
yep, bigger
and
cards.
so they had to charge more. And it was like, okay, well, if you want these games, you're going to pay more, but you're going to get a lot of playtime out of it. Like if you beat this game, you are going to get hours and hours and hours, and maybe upwards close to 100 hours or
Hmm.
more.
Well, think
hmm
about like
Playtime.
like look at like when we had the PlayStation era, just the PS1, where games normalized at $50. That was what you were
Right.
gonna pay. But like 64 came, Nintendo had the 64 come out, and some of those games still fluctuated more beyond the 49.99.
But they were on a physical cart, and
Hmm.
depended on what size chip you needed to run the game, and that was one of the things that everyone criticized Nintendo for.
Yeah.
Guess what? I bet you there'll be a
I'll
lot
be
more
right
of those
back, guys.
cartridges in 20 years than there are.
No worries, Ryan. Yeah. Finish your sentence. Oh, so do you anything else?
That was it. Is just
Okay.
the cartridges are going to outlast the CDs and DVDs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm. And it's funny. Like if you don't put any of that stuff, it doesn't matter if it's cartridge or CD, in like the best of environments, they're not gonna last. Like.
Yeah, if you keep it in a humid environment, it's going to destroy them both.
Mm-hmm.
My son already proved that.
So we're not doing. I mean, we could do a comparison here. Like I always believe, to me personally, that the Super Nintendo had the better library. I think it had the more
Mhm.
games it had. But like there was a special thing with the Genesis. And you think about like it was one of the issues that I had with the system was the fact that like yeah, we had the Sega CD. You had the 32X, but none of it had a way to power within one plug. You had to have 3 dedicated plugs to run all
Right.
this. And I'm like, why couldn't they have thought about a better design? I know later on, yes,
Only
exactly.
need one.
Yeah, exactly. They did do systems that were outside of, I mean, that were only in Japan exclusives, but like, it kind of was at a detriment at sometimes because some people didn't want to have all this extra peripherals to play these other games.
Mhm.
But I kind of tack on the Sega CD and the 32X as part of the Genesis because it was just upgrades
Because
to the
you
system.
needed a Genesis to even play
Buy
those.
them. Yeah, you couldn't
Right.
buy
It
themselves.
was they're not it's not a console. They were both add-ons. You added them
Mhm.
on to your base console. And I agree that they're not to me they're not consoles. It is part of the Genesis.
Hmm.
So
Right.
part of the Genesis library. But it's
Extensions.
you got to have extra peripherals to
Yes,
even
utilize it. Yeah, I mean, you got
Mhm.
but
the
it was
what the
cheaper that way.
Justifier and
Yeah.
the Minister.
It's cheaper when you don't have to buy an entire new console. You can just buy this add-on that works with something existing because there's less parts that are needed in this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like what you brought up with the power base converter. That to me is what elevated Genesis in my opinion. It really started to elevate the Genesis above Super Nintendo. If they had an attachment like that for the SNES, I probably would have still been more of a diehard Nintendo
Nintendo
fanboy.
fan.
But when I discovered the power base converter and I had access to all my Sega Master System games again, holy hell was I in heaven. I was living it up like it was the first day we brought those suckers home from Toys R Us. And you know, I regret selling mine to this day. I forgot why I did. Um but was that a freaking game changer? And other consoles had done that before. Coleco had the 2600 adapter, which highly illegal, but
Yes, yeah.
they were lax at that time, so
Blame
they could do that.
blame Cast for
Um,
the PlayStation to the Sega CD or Sega Dreamcast. Man, come on.
hmm I mean, they
yeah.
did that with the Bleem on PlayStation. So, other systems before and after had attempted that. But the fact that you could literally just put this piece of hardware on your Genesis and play those exact cartridges a game, nothing else required. I mean, that right there was elite status in my opinion. And again, no additional power supply, nothing. Just
Well,
popped it
and
in.
that's why and I didn't understand and why my parents decided to get a Genesis until several years ago when I really found out about the Master System because they said we got this because the guy at the store said that you could play some of the older games on it. And I think I got mine in 92 or 93 for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand what they meant. Until I found out about the Master System and the Power Base Converter. It's like, oh, you can play these on Genesis. That's what my parents meant. That's what they were talking about. They bought the Genesis because it was backwards compatible. And so
Mm-hmm.
I could have played more games if we had more money and we could have bought
Power
the Power
converter.
Base Converter
Yeah.
and the games. But yeah, I mean, because okay, I pulled up a quick thing on ChatGPT. So for the Genesis in the U.S., there were 713 officially licensed games. In the U.S., for the Super Nintendo, there was 717 games. So almost the same library. So
Yeah.
if you add in the Master System games, well, that number goes up. But then if you
Right.
add in the Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo, that number goes up a lot.
Yeah, and then
Mhm.
if we would have gotten the Nintendo PlayStation, that would have been an upgrade for the Super Nintendo. That
Yep.
would
Yeah.
have been a total game changer. I still believe that to this day. Had Sony and Nintendo worked it out, man, like could you the level of things that they could do as a company together, well, two
Yep.
companies
Mhm.
together would be unstoppable. And
It
maybe we
would be
wouldn't have
very,
gotten the Wii.
but
Yeah.
and that brings something up. Like you would have lost something because, I mean, Nintendo is Nintendo.
Yes.
Sony is an electronics company, but
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, there's something special there. They've existed as a gaming company for how long?
Yep.
Sony and Microsoft came in from computers or electronics or whatever and decided to make games as well.
Yeah, and that's
They're just like,
because
I
of
want a piece of this pie.
the fallout between Nintendo because they were
Yeah.
developing that PlayStation for them, and they're like, well, what are we going to do with this now? They're like, okay, well, let's just release it ourselves.
Yep.
Um, it's sad too because you think about the fact that yeah, the power could you like unfortunately, there's the what is it, the Tower of Power with the Sega Genesis where you hook everything up
Yes.
together, but you could not have the power base converter connected to the 32X because it wouldn't work. It translates backwards unless you, I guess, got a I don't know. I mean, you could have
I-
figured out a way, but
You might be able to put a
Maybe.
Game Genie,
yeah, that's what I
a
was thinking. Game
DVD,
Genie in
Yeah.
there.
and then stick it on
Uh-huh.
top because oftentimes the thing that makes the power base converter incompatible with something is the shell. You
Yeah.
Yes.
take it out of the shell, and then you just got like this big 2T circuit boards, and you put it in a lot of different things, and it'll work, but you've got to pull it out of the shell.
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
you just buy the power base mini FM, which is just a cartridge. You can slap it in there, and then you plug in your games to that.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, we got to thank Sega themselves for the fact that we got the Nomad to be able to actually take your games on the go,
Your
even though it
pre-existing.
even though it ate up batteries. Was
Like
really
the Game Gear.
revolutionary. Yeah, like the Game
Right.
Gear. And like we got nothing like that for Nintendo. The closest we got, of course, was the
No.
Super Game Boy, but that was going backwards instead of
I was
being
going
able to
backwards, yeah.
Mhm.
going to the whole
Yeah.
thing of forward with a device that you could take on the go. I mean, we got the Super Game Boy, but that's not Nintendo, you know.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's not something that I could just pick up and start playing Turtles in Time on,
Mm-hmm.
you
But
know.
then Sega had the Game Gear, and then they made it so that you could put an adapter in that and take your
For
Master
Master
System games on
System.
the go.
Yep.
Yep.
So they had
Exactly.
a little bit of a history of doing that.
Mhm. Sega in my mind, and this goes back again to like our console war years between me and Leroy. I was never one to deny that Sega had the innovation. They had the ideas. They had the tech. What what ultimately didn't help was they were just trying to push out way too much, way too soon. And after the Genesis era, their marketing bombed. It was terrible.
Well, I
And
mean, the Saturn they messed up a lot of things,
They
including
did.
launching early and not telling
Any
anybody
retails.
about it.
Retailers, there was
mhm.
no product for them to be able to meet the demand for the customers that were going to be rushing to the stores to pick up this console.
And like, we don't even have it out on the shelves. What do you mean it's available now?
Right, right. And
We don't have space on the shelves.
that's not to say that Nintendo didn't do that later with, the Game Boy consoles, and then you had the Wii and then the Wii U. I mean, there were stepping stones they just did not have to make. They could have
Right.
just pushed it forward a bit more and gave us something a bit more elite. Like when you look at Sega's history and their libraries, there's definitely more staying power with the Genesis library than most of their other consoles. Saturn is niche, we know that. unless you grew up with
Dreamcast,
that, or you
Dreamcast is an amazing library though.
It does.
It
right,
does.
but
Does.
that comes way later after the
Yeah.
staying power of the Genesis starts to falter.
Yeah.
Nobody was rushing out that we knew of was rushing out to get Sega CD. No one was rushing
No.
out to get
Yeah.
32X.
CD was
You
me
know?
for this because for the Star Wars games, but then like I'll talk about another game that like I didn't even know existed until years later that I wish I would have known about. But anyway,
Right.
continue.
And I collected I got one. So I still got my Sega CDs. I have all my systems in between except for 32X cuz those things just die
Yeah, they don't.
every
Yeah, they're not
there's
great.
no consistent power there. Um but when you talk Sega with people, it's mostly Genesis titles they
Mm-hmm.
remember, you know, unless you were a Dreamcast fan or you're one of those rarities where, like us, we're Saturn fans
Saturn.
because we had Saturn growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about those consoles. Hell, most of the time, even in our retro community, nobody plays 32X.
Nope.
Nobody attempts Sega CD.
Mm-hmm.
And as
I'd love.
far as
I will at some point. I plan on to. But don't.
as far as I knew, I was the only one who hardwired an actual Sega CD console and live streamed it. Same with my Sega Saturn, because nobody was talking about those. And the same with even Game Gear.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout outs to everybody in the community now who are either discovering these games and these consoles or are now finally starting to put them out there. Omega, I'm talking about you. All of a sudden you're streaming Game Gear. What the hell? um, I'm glad that people are actually going back and revisiting a lot that they missed out on.
Yes.
And whether it's because, again, exposure or whatever caused, them to not know about this stuff, it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of stuff in between Genesis and Dreamcast that are really solid.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this is one of those things is like for the Sega CD, like we did pick it up. We wanted to play first off Star Wars, and that's one of the things. Like I've talked about this before on the podcast. Is like we're a big Star Wars family, and like anytime there was a new Star Wars game coming out for a console, usually that was one of those things that we would buy a console for. So
Mm-hmm.
when we knew about Rebel Assault coming out, we were there. Yes, I did play the Star Wars Chess Master game or whatever that had the animated cutscenes and stuff, which was fun, but it wasn't like a great game at all. But Powerful Mail, talk about a great game. Snatcher, which is one I was going to talk about, is like such a great game.
Oh,
Voice acted, animated, like point click adventure with that use the justifier for certain points of the game because when you're fighting some of the Snatcher bots or whatever they're called, I can't remember. But such a great narrative game. And then you have was it Shadow of the Dragon? I think it was.
mm-hmm.
That fantastic game with the voice from Cam Clark, the guy who did Leonardo's voice,
Yep.
and Kaneda's voice from Akira.
Kaneda.
Um, there was like, and then of course you got like Double Switch and Ground Zero Texas. There was a lot
Yes.
of cool games that were there that were these FMV games that were. I know people are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm on." It's like watching a movie. Why do I want to do this? But it's like, did you play them? They're really good. They weren't just
Mhm.
kind of hand fisted in there. And then like yeah, with the 32X, I really only played like the Star Wars Arcade and I think Primal Rage and like one other game. And I really always wanted to play the Spider-Man one, but never got around to it. And it's of course
Oh,
the most expensive game on the console.
right. Oh, don't even get me started on that.
But that's what's cool about like emulation now is that it makes it easier for you to have access to these things. And going back,
Mhm.
which piggybacks on what you're talking about, like people in our community that are starting to find these games that, yeah, a lot of us knew back then, but it was very niche. Like we became the gatekeepers for that stuff, even though like no gatekeeping here, right? We're like we're all about the
Right.
celebration of gaming, but it was like we were the guys that were ushering in new fans to these things, but it was like at a level of maybe 5 friends per year, and it wasn't
Yeah.
like, and depending on their outcome or how much money they had, or if their parents could help them do that or whatever. But
Mhm.
what Sega was doing at the time was just revolutionary, and it's sad because the Saturn was such a great system. Yes, it didn't do well with polygonal graphics and everything, but like what it did for the sprite game and like arcade shooters and getting us close enough to replicating arcade games on the system with
Oh,
like Virtual
absolutely.
On was amazing. And in the Dreamcast, there was a whole other slew of that. Microsoft, part of it, distribution, how easy it was to hack and burn your own games to play on the system. So it's like you basically killed your market because you didn't kind of put in some kind of encryption into it.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get into a little bit about the Model 2 and Model 3. Did we talk about that yet?
No, go ahead, Ryan. If
No,
you want to
no.
bring that up, yeah, go for it.
I always prefer the Model 1 to the Model 2.
Yo,
And
Vin.
Yup.
the sound does get a downgrade in the Model 2. The sound is not as good
And
when
the
it
Model
goes out
3.
that back port. Because when you do it, I always like to hook it up without the coming out the headphone jack in the Model 1 to do the stereo left and right
Mhm.
sound, and then I use the
Yep.
video from the back output. But even though it is inferior, the sound on the Model 2, it's still kind of cool looking system.
Mhm.
And I think that looks better when you pop that on like the Model 2 Sega
Yeah.
CD, because of the Model 1 sticks out. You know what I mean? Like it has that side stick out. Think about the Model 1 when you pop it on the Model
Yeah.
2. The side comes
Yeah.
out, like
Looks
a
great,
love
yeah.
handle.
Yeah, you
Um,
need
And the
that
32X
extension
looks good on the
piece.
Model 2.
It does.
Yeah.
And
See, I'm a sucker for that American Psycho 80s stereo looking.
the laser disc player looking.
Yes, I love my Genesis 1. I love my Sega CD 1. It's just that screams end of the 80s, early 90s to me, and I
Yeah.
love the look of that thing. I get the compact, the compact size of the Sega 2 definitely was a plus, cuz I mean, unless you really cared or had the equipment to utilize the stereo outputs and all that, which I didn't. I didn't even get a
didn't.
TV that had AV output until years later. It was always RF for me. Um, so I get the appeal of that one because it was definitely a much smaller, lighter console, and then we went into the
Rise
Gen
of the
3,
Dragon.
which was even smaller than that. But I love the 80s aesthetic of the Gen 1 uh Genesis and Sega CD. That thing is just a piece of art. And I love it when I had a 32X I could slap on that thing, cuz yeah, that is a true tower of power right there.
And you're not
Well,
wrong.
how many people use headphones with the jack?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I
Stay
did.
up late and play it. And your parents
Yes.
never
Yeah.
knew because you didn't have the volume on the TV. You just turn the TV on, and I noticed I pulled the knob to turn the TV on, and you'd play. You sit there and listen. You turn the slider where you need it to be,
Mhm.
and you can hear it, and you'd just play.
Yep.
So nice.
Now Nintendo and Super Nintendo had the attachments you could hook up, a pair of cruddy headphones too, but there was just something about that quality on the Genesis. There really was.
So y'all knew about the whole thing. Like, apparently you weren't getting the full sound quality even on the Model 1. Like you needed the SCART cable or whatever to pass through some kind of converter to make it to where you actually got the full-on sound. That's kind of what gave the Genesis its iconic like bass sound. I remember watching a video about it like some years ago.
Yeah, and that's why you really needed that elite stereo, hookup to
Mhm.
really, bask in the audio quality. But again, for someone like me, um, I just liked the overall look and appeal and aesthetic, and just, you know, I would agree that in comparison to the Nintendo, which looked like an outdated, Betamax player, um, the NES and the Super Nintendo weren't as appealing as the Genesis was, and even the Sega Saturn. Like those look like quality consoles, and they are.
Mhm. I mean, there was a style to it, right? They were going for a certain demographic of kids, versus like Nintendo had this thing with when they released the NES, Super Nintendo, that they still had like this stigmata within the American industry for gaming that we couldn't sell video game consoles to people. It had to be entertainment systems. It had to look like
Entertainment.
it had to look like a VHS style. It had to look almost space age, like with the Super Nintendo. We lost some of the cooler, fun colors that we were getting with the Super Famicom, the Famicom itself. It wasn't until like the 64 where everything kind of had this stabilized, streamlined look that it went forward with. But I feel like Sega could still be around right now. I know that they tied a lot of the stuff with the Dreamcast with Microsoft. Like if you ever boot up your Dreamcast, it boots up with like Windows,
The Windows CE
version.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I always take the fact of like the Dreamcast as a precursor to the Xbox. It's like Microsoft wanted to find a way into the video game market, and they were like, Sega's the only company that we see that has the power to do this and willingness to do it, which was at Sega's detriment in a way. But
I mean, the Xbox is Dreamcast 2.0.
Yes.
Even the controller you can look at and be like, okay, I can see how this morphed into this.
Right.
And I mean, how many early releases that may have gotten released in Europe on the Dreamcast went to the Xbox in the States? So,
The Console Wars book needs to be mandatory reading for any gamer, retro gamer.
Yes.
Because that book, when you learn about Kalinsky and the marketing that they were doing, and the amount of time, what we didn't talk about is how much Sega of America had to butt heads with Sega of Japan, who they had a very kind of tight ass guy over there that didn't want to spend much, didn't want to kind of be lenient on stuff, was very old school, very much the, like kind of like a dinosaur compared to what they were trying to do with Kalinsky, because he was a Mattel toy guy. He knew what he was doing and how to market it, and they pushed him to do too many consoles. Sega of Japan, they didn't, he didn't want to do it. Kalinsky and the team, which you learn from that book. And also one of the other lines in the sand, it really was a head-to-head war during the console wars between the Genesis and Super Nintendo until one pivotal game release at E3 or whatever, when they did the Donkey Kong Country reveal. It was kind of game over for the head-to-head battle. Say the Genesis lost it at that point. You know what I mean? You just couldn't do rare silicon graphics like that on the Genesis.
Well, okay, but we know now that a lot of that stuff that was going on with Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 was pre-rendered sprites. It wasn't actually like they were pulling 32-bit graphics on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. But I mean, look at Vector Man.
Oh, Vector Man was great.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Comic Zone.
There's stuff that they could have done.
Oh yeah.
Because even Virtua Racer, that even if you're into racing games, they got the polygons going. They were things they could have done more with it. The system. I mean, they can always do more with the systems. It doesn't matter what generation you're looking at. There's always more that they could have done. But it's it's like, oh well, hey, we got to go on to the new thing because people want something that's shinier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like they were really trying to, because we just talked about the fact of like with the Saturn itself and how they pushed it out because they were trying to beat Sony. And like had they given a little bit more time to develop and work on what they wanted to do, because you think about all of the innovation that was going into just the Genesis with all these expansions, and a lot of that was driven by the American market outside of Japan. And like Ryan said, they didn't feel the market of the US was worth putting in that time and effort for. And could you imagine like what they would have done had they just followed what Sega Japan wanted them to do?
They would definitely still be existing and still pumping out consoles, in my opinion, because one of the points that you brought up, and this is why I defend the Saturn to the death. I don't care who you are in the community, who you are outside of it. The Sega Saturn is hands down one of the closest consoles you will get to that brought home arcade quality, because I didn't know a single person outside of my uncle's friend who owned a Neo Geo. And that was practically having an arcade cab at home, if you were fortunate enough to afford that beast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Saturn, even with Sony out, when it came to graphics, sound quality, playability, Saturn could kick the shit out of anything that Sony was putting out there. I will put my record as a collector and a historian out there with that statement, because Saturn is still one of the only consoles that has a damn near perfect port of X-Men versus Street Fighter, of Darkstalkers, of so many arcade fighters.
Final fight, final bout, and like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, like some of the SNK games that we were getting.
Final Fight CD on the Sega CD is still the best port of that arcade game. Even better than the Super Nintendo ports. Having to buy Final Fight and then the very expensive Final Fight guy just to have the whole roster, bullshit.
I'm
And
sorry,
I
I'm thinking
hated
Fury to Fury. Sorry, but yeah, no, Final Fight is definitely one of those ones that had the perfect arcade port, and that was just on the CD.
I'll
Yeah.
be right back.
Okay.
I was so mad having to figure out, not only is that port one player, it doesn't have Guy on there, and that's who I used in the arcade. Guy is my character. And then
Did we mention blood in the first Mortal Kombat on Genesis and not on Super Nintendo? Because
I was going to try to bring that up.
Moment.
Yeah, that was a big moment. You know, it's amazing like what they were able to push for Mortal Kombat 1, especially with allowing the blood to be there, because they wanted a more mature audience, right? So they're not going to be like Nintendo, where it's like, oh, well, we're still a family-friendly company.
Yeah, because it's more of what that says to the public.
The entertainment system, remember?
Just knowing that there's blood, that was like in the schoolyard, that was a pride point that you had blood in Mortal Kombat 1 Genesis. That was something kids talked about.
Meh.
You know? And that did shape the public perception. Even though they did correct it with the second one on Super Nintendo.
Oh,
it's
dude.
like that took a hit. It took a chip out of the stone, the statue, you know, like of, you know, perfect Nintendo, because that's some kids don't like it when you censor shit, dude. Kids don't like it. We know how much the parental advisory sticker made kids want to buy albums more. We don't like stuff censored when we're young. We don't want that.
Wait, this movie's rated R. Hell yes, let's go.
Yeah, let's sneak in.
So we got about 10 minutes, guys. We'll wrap up the episode.
Yeah.
But you're right, Ryan. And like, it's sad though that the level of quality for Mortal Kombat like 2, 3, and Ultimate, like I don't even think Genesis got Ultimate, wasn't great on that system. And I guess it was just the technical things that were going on with the mechanics and stuff. They just couldn't figure out, because you'd added the run button, so it was like you're taking up, because not everybody had the 6-button controller for the Genesis themselves. So it was hard to market some of these games that they could have done had the standard controller already started out with 6 buttons, or at least 2 shoulder buttons like we got with the Saturn. Sega, you can't say we never tried, right? There you go. Later, Eris, thanks for hanging out, brother. Have a good stream tonight. Just checking out the chat real quick. But yeah, I mean, this is like, console gaming would not be anything without the Genesis, without Sega, with
100%
the market for competition, because competition breeds innovation and a rush to put out the best games for the best attention for the players. We're now more complacent about that. And
just one other thing I want to say, since we only got 10 minutes, something I learned from the book, they really took it to the grassroots street campaign marketing by putting in the middle of all the malls the comparison. This was very important, of comparing the speed of Sonic to Super Mario World, and they side by side, you know, had kids pick which one they had fun with more. and just that was a big deal too with getting Sega name in the household, and just showing them in the because that wasn't something Nintendo was doing on that level, like taking it to all the malls. They were really trying to be the tastemakers at Sega,
Right.
and trying to be grassroots marketing, trying things that Nintendo at that time they kind of took for granted, right? They're like, you know what, we have full saturation. We ain't worried about Sega. They're not really gonna, they ain't got shit on us. There was that kind of attitude in the air. There was a smugness to that. But, you know, what made them compete for so many of those years, at least up until that Donkey Kong Country reveal, was make that going head to head, was that they were doing that. And we got to remember that classic commercial where they show in the Mario Kart, like the slow speed of that in that commercial, mocking it. That was something that like Nintendo had to up their game, and that's when they started doing Play It Loud.
Yeah.
Nintendo started doing Play It Loud because of the Sega commercials and all the attitude and just that punk rock shit that Sega was representing. Nintendo had to change their game, change their marketing. So I just wanted to make sure we remember that part about the mall, them really engaging and getting these mall events, kids playing them, and the marketing campaigns kind of mocking Nintendo. That but at the end of the day, both companies made each other better.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
great battle. As much as there was animosity, it was thank God, because it just made both companies fire on all cylinders, and we just got better games because of it. We got better commercials because of it. We got better. It's always good to have a rivalry.
So
Yeah.
that's something we totally didn't get into either, was the commercials, but that's something we can save for another time.
It sounds like a part 2.
Yeah. So
Right.
Owaz, go ahead and give us your little we got like 6 minutes left, man. So just give us your thoughts on wrapping up this episode, and we'll
So
wrap up.
I think the Genesis was a hallmark in gaming. It showed that another company other than Nintendo could actually do something and make a lasting impression. Like they got market share. The Master System in the United States didn't
Yeah.
get a lot of market share. It did well in Europe, but not here.
And Brazil.
But when Sega of America was completely had the reins and whatnot, they were able to do something. They were able to compete with basically somebody that had a monopoly at the time. They came in and they fought tooth and nail to get the market share that they had for the Genesis, and we got great games out of it. We got some really really sweet stuff, things that'll they've stuck around this long and they'll keep going. Shining Force, the Sonic games, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, all this stuff that was shown that hey, you can do this stuff on a home console, and we got some really great stuff. I got some great memories out of it. Hyperstone Heist is still the best TMNT game yet. I had to throw that one in there for you, Vince. But
We should have pulled that.
but that's what I grew up with. And I have great memories of playing it with my brother, hooking up the Genesis to the Commodore 64 monitor and figuring out how to do that. And don't hook it up in the back because it's black and white then because of the way it handles the signals.
Yeah.
But and we didn't get a ton into specific accessories, but we talked about this is still one of my favorite controllers. I like this more than the 6-button arcade stick. The way this one feels and just sounds is so nice. It feels so good. Granted, it's probably because I have a lot of nostalgia for it, because I played a lot of games with that. But that's what makes all of this stuff special, is the time that we spent with it.
Yes. And the friends we made along the way.
Exactly, because even my brother, who later on got a Super Nintendo, we would play games together on my Genesis, and then we'd play games together on Super Nintendo. There's just so much, we talk about the console wars and how it was kind of neat because there's this back and forth, but at the end of the day, we won. It didn't matter who won the console wars.
Yeah, the gamers won.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for us, there would have been no war. And we just got great games out of it, great series, things that hold lots of memories for us. And we get, I mean, that's why we're even here. is because of the memories and nostalgia we have for this stuff. Because it's so cool. And the Genesis and Sega and the marketing and stuff, it's just they did a good job of actually capturing a market that I would have imagined that no one would have thought they would have been able to do at the time.
I agree. I to this day love what Sega gave us over the years and what they represented, because again, my love for Sega stemmed all the way to the arcade scene, which is what they were known for. Service games. They
Yep.
were an arcade company. And Nintendo, although they got their foot started in their luxurious history with playing cards, toys, all kinds of stuff. Yes, they were in the arcade scene as well, but you also had Williams, Taito. You had all those bigger companies that were dominating the arcade scene. When Sega revolutionized the home console market with bringing way better arcade adaptations home, I looked at that and went, okay, Sega, all right, they're good. They're good. Nintendo's better, but they're good. And then again, with the 16-bit console war, so much exposure to so many good pieces of software out there. You've got the exclusive titles. You've got, okay, who did this game better? Conversations and experiences. The rental hype, you know, magazines, just everything that was there for our entertainment, was during the console wars. And I think that because Sega really embedded itself in the gaming community because they were able to keep up with Nintendo and prove, hey, you guys aren't the only ones who could do this shit. I think
Mhm.
that's what made me enjoy both consoles, because if I had the same game on both ports, then it just comes down to, favoritism and maybe whatever I'm in the mood for. When it came down to the exclusives, that was a bit more selective. But I mean, I can't say I really like one over the other anymore like that. I feel that it really just comes down to the quality that both sides brought,
Yeah.
and the experiences with it. Leroy was my go-to Sega guy when it came to talking about anything Sega. He was like the archive guy to go to. I was more the Nintendo guy, so I knew more about Nintendo's history and such. And we had that give and take exchange where we were giving each other information, we were letting each other borrow magazines. We used to write our own quizzes even on weekends and just be like, all right, bro, let's see what you remembered the last time we talked about this, or let's see what you know now, kind of thing. And that kind of thing was fun. The rentals, the used bookstore that we used to go to, where technically we rented games because they had a week return policy. And if we liked the games that we bought, we kept them. If we didn't, we took them back that following Saturday, got our money or our credit back, bought something new, vice versa. Unless you're shady like me, learned how to take off the price tags, put it on shit you didn't want, and then you took it back.
Oh my gosh, yes. So
Oh,
many
I
geez.
I I am guilty of
shenanigans.
that. I
Yep.
I am
Shenanigans.
totally guilty of that. Even when they changed the price tag, I said, "No, I'm gonna crack this system. I'm gonna figure out how to take this off without fucking up the label." So
Yeah.
yes, um, but
All right.
I would
Real
never
quick.
Well,
take
I
let's
gotta
that
go
stuff
ahead.
yeah,
back.
let's
Duck out.
wrap it up. So, all right,
I gotta duck
guys.
out. You guys have a good night.
You too,
Sorry.
Wawaz. Yeah, no worries,
Um,
brother. No worries.
Part two, I'm all in. Master
Okay.
System, I'm all in.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
We
y'all
can go
take
down the
care.
whole we can go how the whole down the whole rabbit hole of the Sega experience. So,
Yeah.
all right, Wawaz. Thanks, brother, for being here, man.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah, thanks.
So I will dedicate a good portion of my good memories to just that time period overall. And I'm glad that we had that, because when I thought that was where we were going to go with Sega and Sony and Microsoft, it wasn't the same.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So this was fun, guys. There's definitely much more to talk about on the Genesis, but in general Sega. So maybe this is something we come back to. I know that next week, on Wednesday, we have a pre-loaded episode. We're going to be talking about the Super Nintendo. So it's me, Bright White North, Coda, and my buddy Gus. And it was a fun episode. So look forward to that. But guys, thank you for being here and checking out this episode, because the Genesis brought a lot of great things to the table. And a lot of people, some people did miss out on this. And if you have the opportunity, no matter how you do it, emulation, get some of the mini consoles, like get a Evercart or whatever those things are called. You know, find
Everdrive.
Everdrive. There you go. Thanks, Ryan. Find a way to play stuff. It doesn't matter about like what like a group of people that you may look up to think, like even us. You know, find it for yourself. Play
Even
these
if you
things.
if you get the Sega greatest hits like collections, they've done like 10 times over now, right? Like they did it for like 360. They had that greatest hits.
Mhm.
They had it like you can get it digital. You sometimes on sale for like $5 or $10.
Yep.
And they give you like 30 games or whatever. Even if you get like something like that, like just to have a bunch of the go-tos, whatever you do, big or small, just rep some Sega, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, we got some good stuff coming down the pipe, right? Right now, we have Shinobi Art of Vengeance. We're getting Final
Dude, what
Fight.
did that say? Also, I have to say,
Streets of Rage.
I have to say, I have to say this, just like pop culture. This is so important. We leave with this too, guys. These 3 Sonic movies have done gangbusters. You know how hilarious that is? Something that started with like Sega, with their game development, is still like putting asses in seats at the theater, comparable to even the Mario movie. A lot of people saw those 3 Sonic movies, dude. They made big money, big business. Fucking Jim Carrey's in them. Like, so I just think that's, if that isn't an example of like the effect on pop culture that still stands to this, and they're still putting out tons of Sonic games. I mean, a big release next month that's going to be really pivotal game in the kart racing game is that new Sonic Racing,
Racers,
which is always one of the best kart racers. It's like the upper echelon is the Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing, and then Sonic, I'd say, those are the echelon of the best ones that come out. So that's going to be a big release.
Yeah. No, you're right. And then you think about Sonic Frontier, which just came out, which is a new innovation to the Sonic game. Kind of giving it a feel like Breath of the Wild with this open world adventure. But yeah, there is a lot of Sega stuff to come, which we are excited for. I am super hyped for Shinobi. I am a big fan. But, take the time. Seek it out. Enjoy it. Consume it. Like, there's no better time than now. And if we left you with anything that makes you want to go play something different, and those are for people, this message is for people that are in the chat right now, people maybe they're lurking, or people that may have come across this podcast episode at a later date. There's some great stuff we talked about, some things that we miss within our gaming history that was so great, so entertaining, and that it can't be replicated to this day. But you can replicate some of it. You can do that with your friends. You contact them and say, hey.
Let me do one line in the sand too, Vince.
Go for it.
It doesn't matter how you play. It matters that you play.
Right, exactly. Yes, thank you.
I don't care if it's PC emulation. I don't care if it's you own the carts. I don't care if it's you're playing on a Pi. I don't care if you just play on a handheld. I don't care even if you're having to NDR games. Do whatever you do it, casual, pro, amateur, whatever. All that matters is that you're gaming.
Save states, emulations, NDR, doesn't matter. Just play the game. That's all it can.
Exactly.
You're going to get no judgment from us.
I can't stand any elitist bullshit in the gaming community, industry, any of that shit. It's not about that. Your guy down the street that's just playing a game once in a while, drinking a beer, is just as much of a motherfucking gamer as somebody who can do an NDR. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of that elitist bullshit. It's lame. We're too old for it. Y'all are in your 40s.
Or 30s, depending
Grow
for
up.
some people.
Grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, look, we're not reliving our football days if we ever did play football. I never did, but hey.
Don't be Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Don't be sad. Don't be pathetic, guys out there. You hear me? You listening?
Don't be Al
Don't be
Bundy.
sad. Don't
As
be
a
pathetic.
used car salesman, or used shoe salesman or whatever.
Act your age.
Hey, he scored 4 touchdowns in a single game. Let's not forget that.
Right, but he tries to relive those glory days, but he works as a shoe salesman. I mean, I won some tournaments back in the day, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I will be back with another episode with another group of our guys in the community talking about the Super Nintendo on Wednesday. I do plan on doing a lot more live stuff as well with the podcast, so look forward to those. And I will bring back, of course, Zombie and Ryan and Owaz are always welcome back on the podcast. And if you want to be on a podcast, reach out to me and we can set something up. But we will be back for another Sega episode at some time, probably in October. Maybe we'll talk about some horror stuff. What's up, Lo?
Legend of Low.
YOLO!
But we will. I mean, she just came in. Hold on, let me read her thing. Good evening. So cool this podcast. The y'all meet. Oh man, I can't read right now.
The conclusions y'all mentioned.
Sorry. Thank you. I'll let you do it.
Okay.
I'll let you do it.
All right.
Go for it.
Good evening. So cool this podcast. The conclusions y'all mentioned are true. Play the games and have fun. Greetings.
Yep.
And I couldn't agree more, honestly. That's why, I threw what I threw in there for chat. There are some things, guys, Genesis does what Nintendo don't. And I can't stress enough, if it's not exclusive titles you're looking for, then just dive right in.
Yep.
Dive into the library,
Just game.
Yep.
And with that, everyone, we'll catch you next episode. See you later. Peace.
Peace.